Senator, let's talk about rebuilding the Democratic Party. You have endorsed Minnesota Congressman Keith Ellison to be DNC chair. New York Times is reporting that the Obama White House is looking for a more moderate candidate. What do you make of that?
Well, I think Keith is the candidate that we need, and I'll tell you why. I mean, if you assess where the Democratic Party is, and that is the Republicans have won the White House, the U.S. Senate, the U.S. House. I think they control about 2/3 of the governor's chairs in this country. In the last 8 years, the Democrats have lost over 900 legislative seats around the country in state legislatures. I think it's time to take a reassessment of the purpose of where the Democratic Party is and where it wants to go. And I think essentially what we need to do right now is to become a grassroots party, which is what Keith Ellison believes. Open the doors to working people, open the doors to young people. Less emphasis on raising large sums of money, more emphasis on bringing new blood into the political parties. And I think that if you look at the issues that we talk about, whether or not we're going to give tax breaks to billionaires as the Republicans want, whether we're going to expand Social Security, making public colleges and universities tuition free, deal with climate change. Those are issues that the vast majority of the American people support. We should be winning their votes. Got to figure out why we're not right now.
And you've been talking about this around the country, about how to move forward. I want to play something that you said in Boston last week. Take a listen.
It is not good enough for somebody to say, I'm a woman, vote for me. What we need is a woman who has the guts to stand up to Wall Street, to the insurance companies, to the drug companies, to the fossil fuel industry.
Senator, was that a dig at Hillary Clinton?
No, it really wasn't. What it was is to say that, in my view, we need more women in elected position. We need more African Americans, more Latinos. We need a more diverse government. But at the same time, it is not good enough to say, somebody is a Latino, somebody's a white, somebody's a black. What do they stand for? And the major issue, Dana, to my mind right now, is the fact that we have a growth in the number of billionaires, that we're moving toward oligarchy, where a handful of very, very wealthy people control not only our economic life, but our political life. How do we turn that around?
Senator,
so we want more diversity, but we need to have people have the guts to stand up to big money interests.
Nancy Pelosi is facing a leadership battle this week within the House caucus. She has at least some opposition, including from Congressman Tim Ryan. Do you think it is time to replace Nancy Pelosi?
I will leave that to the, I was in the House for 16 years. I'm not in the House right now. I'll leave that to the members of the House.
Do you think, though,
and Nancy is a friend of mine. I think she has done a very good job, but I think that is an issue the people in the House will have to decide.
But you've been very outspoken about what the party you just were needs to do to move forward. Do you think that she is the right leader to rebuild the party that you envision?
Well, again, you're going to have fewer than 200 people who make that decision. Those are the Democrats in the House, and they will have that debate, and they will make that decision, not for me to make.